Some women want love, she wanted to be consumed. She didn't want sweet words or hand-holding under starlight, she wanted a man to grab her by the soul, drag her into the fire, and stay there, breathing her smoke, like Azariah Monroe, 29, wasn't just a beautiful black woman. She was a collision of need and Nirvana. Her need was the kind most men weren't built to survive. The city outside moaned with midnight rain. But inside her apartment, a different storm raged. She stood in front of her mirror, naked beneath a silk robe, staring at her own reflection like it owed her something. Full lips, powerful hip size that looked soft but hid a war behind them. She whispered to herself, not out of vanity, but frustration, what's the point of having a body like this if no man knows what to do with it? Not one man, not in years. They called her sexy, worshipped her photos, texted at 2 a.m. talking about, let me give you what you need. But when she let them in, when she opened herself like scripture, ready to be read, they came fast, breathed loud, said damn girl too much, and passed out like weak men in strong places. Not one made her not one made her scream from the center of her chest. Not one ever held her shaking body after taking her past the edge, then did it again. She had slept with men, but no one had ever forgave her like they meant it, like they knew her fire, her rhythm, her ruin. And she was tired. She poured herself a glass of wine and didn't drink it, sat on the edge of her bed, opened her phone and scrolled through graveyards, ghosts of unsatisfying men with gym abs and no soul messages like "wid" or "I miss that ass," all of it. She had deleted the apps before, but this time, it felt final. She didn't want to be touched against, she wanted to be felt, to be taken slowly, completely, until there was nothing left but yes. Her thumb hovered over the delete account button, but before she could tap it, one message popped up, just one, from someone named Malik. No profile pic, no blue check, just a one-line bio. I don't want to tame your fire, I want to burn with you. She didn't move to did it. Blink, just stared, like the words had hands and were wrapping around her throat. It wasn't the usual game, it wasn't thirsty, it was honest, dangerous, like a man who didn't just want her, he wanted to match her. Flame for flame, gasp for gasp. She clicked the message. Moloch, I bet you've been told you're too much, too loud when you moan, too greedy with your pleasure, too wild with your hips, but I don't want you smaller, I want you whole. Zariah's breath caught in her chest, her thighs pressed together, not because he turned her on, but because he turned her open, just like that, just from words. She hadn't even seen his face, and still, she felt more naked than she had with anyone in years. She closed her eyes. The last man she'd slept with told her she was exhausting, that she had too much energy in bed, that she needed to calm down a little, that he couldn't keep up. She almost laughed in his face, but instead, she faked a moan and kicked him out at 3 a.m. Her body wasn't the problem, her desire wasn't too much, their hunger just wasn't big enough to meet hers. She picked up the phone, again looked at Moloch's message. It'd overthink it, didn't flirt, didn't fake sweet. She replied with just 2 words. Burn me. She sent it. Put the phone down, and for the first time in a long time, her smile didn't come from hope, it came from recognition. Whoever Malik was, he saw her, not the filtered version, not the polite woman, not the gossiping, small-talking version of herself she used to test if men were safe. He saw the real her, the one who wanted her legs trembling until they forgot how to walk, the one who didn't want a quickie, she wanted hours, she wanted music in the background, candlelight licking the walls, his voice in her ear saying, I'm not done yet. And if Malik was lying, fine, but if he was real, then he wasn't just another man. He was the first one who might finally do what no one else could. Take all of her night after night and never stop wanting more. Azaria didn't sleep that night, not because she was restless, but because her body was finally awake. Her skin felt alive in a way she hadn't known in years, not from a man's touch, but from a man's words, not from lust, but from something deeper. She kept replaying Moloch's message in her head. I don't want to tame your fire, I want to burn with you, she had replied, without hesitation. Burn me. And what came next didn't just meet her where she was, it stripped her of everything she'd been forced to fake. Moloch, then don't hold back. When I do, if you want to be taken, Don't flinch when I learn every inch of you. Zariah stared at the screen. No emojis, no gifs, no games, just truth. She typed back, Zariah, every man I've been with wanted my body, none of them studied it. Malik, that's because they thought climax meant completion. I know better. The body doesn't break open in the first round, it blooms slow. Her eyes softened. She felt something stir that wasn't just desire, it was recognition. Zaria, how would you touch me if I told you I've faked it more times than I can count? The reply came like a facsimile. We wouldn't touch anything until faking wasn't even a thought. I'd take my time, no rush, no goal, just discovery. I'd lay you down and read your body like scripture, line by line, breath by breath. I'd trace every scar, every mark, every place they skipped, and I wouldn't stop until your voice broke and your thighs gave out. From honesty her mouth parted slightly. She hadn't been touched. And still, she felt exposed, vulnerable, in a way that wasn't frightening, it was free. And Zaria, why are you like this? You talk like you've studied women. Malik, I study what I want to protect, and I've never wanted to protect anything more than a woman who's never been fully held. She didn't answer right away. She needed to breathe. She'd never been approached like this. Men usually jumped to nudes or numbers. Malik didn't even ask what she looked like. He spoke like he already knew. Zariah, tell me what you'd do the first night we met. Malik, we don't meet in a club, we meet in a jazz lounge. You walk in wearing red, not to seduce, but because you're the kind of woman who doesn't hide her fire. I watch you from across the room. Not because I'm unsure, but because I want to admire how you move when you think no one's watching. When I approach you, I don't tell you you're beautiful. I ask you what kind of love makes you ache, and I don't touch you. I sit in your silence. I wait for your body to invite me. Zariah's thighs clenched. Her breathing deepened. This wasn't flirting, it was foreplay without fingers. Arya, really think you could handle me? Malik, no, because I don't want to handle you. I want to understand you. I want to learn your rhythm, then speak it back to you with my mouth. My hands, my breath, and my hip. Sheet dropped the phone literally. It landed beside her on the bed, but the message echoed inside her head like a promise. She sat there in the dark, surrounded by flickering candlelight and jazz still playing low in the background. She hadn't touched herself. She hadn't even planned to. But her body was responding, and not from visuals, not from fantasy, but from language, from present. She picked up the phone again. Typed, slow lies. Arya, they always say, I'm too much, too loud, too wet, too greedy. Malik, you're not too much. They were too little. I won't ask you to tone it down. I want you louder, wetter, greedier. I want it. She turned her face into the pillow and laughed softly, not because it was funny, but because her body hadn't known it was still capable of hope. She opened the window, let the Atlanta rain drift into the room like music. She didn't drink wine, didn't touch herself, just lay there, under the blankets, imagining what it would feel like to be studied, touched, kissed, explored with care, not hard, not fast, but real, present, focused. She thought about his words, about the way he didn't ask to see her, but somehow saw everything. Malik, I want to see what you look like when you're not pretending. I want to hear the version of your moan that no man's ever earned. I want your body to stop flinching and start trusting. I don't want your performance, I want your surrender. And with that message, something shifted. Zaria didn't just want him, she wanted to be seen by him, known by him, broken open and rebuilt by him, not because she was weak, but because she'd been too strong for too long. She whispered to herself, this man might be the one I can finally give all of me to. And as her eyes closed, her last thought was a promise to herself. He means what he says. I won't hold back, not one part of me. The sky over Atlanta dripped gold over wet concrete as traffic slowed into a hush. The city felt quieter than usual, like it knew something was about to happen and didn't want to interrupt. Inside a black-owned jazz lounge tucked between two tall buildings, the lights were low, and every note from the trumpet on stage floated like smoke. Candles flickered on every table. People spoke in soft voices, the kind of place where intimacy wasn't forced, it bloomed natural. Azaria walked in like a song no one had heard before, but instantly knew by heart. Her red satin dress fit like it had been poured on. Shoulders bare, cleavage subtle but undeniable. the back cut low to the base of her spine, her afro framed her face like a halo made of power. No jewelry, except a pair of gold hoops that kissed her neck every time she turned. She didn't look around, she didn't need to, she knew he was already watching. She made her way to the bar, sat on the velvet stool, crossed her legs slowly, and ordered bourbon neat. Her voice was soft, but her presence filled the room. She could feel the stares from men who would never understand her, but there was only one pair of eyes that didn't just look at her. They read. Malik sat in the back, dressed in all black, his eyes calm and unreadable, one elbow resting on the table, the other hand holding a glass he hadn't touched, he hadn't approached yet. He watched her like a man who already knew he was part of her story. He was just waiting for the chapter to begin. Zariah didn't move, she didn't smile, she just lifted her glass, sipped slow, and let her lips part around the rim like a promise. She waited 1 minute too. She didn't look toward Hammond then. His footsteps, smooth, slow, confident, like he didn't walk to claim her, but to offer himself in return. He stopped just behind her, leaned down near her ear, and spoke so quietly only her skin heard it. You look like danger dressed in worship. Her smile was small, not polite, not playful. It was the kind of smile a woman gives when someone speaks her exact language. She turned on the stool to face Hammond. There he was, molectal, brown skin, deep like roasted coffee, full beard, trimmed perfectly, sharp jawline, low fade black turtleneck under a long wool coat, no flash, no chains, just present stillness, heat. Their eyes met and neither of them blinked. Zariah, you're late, Malik. You were early. You've been waiting long before tonight. That line didn't feel like game, it felt like truth. Shay looked him up and down, slowly, not to check him out, but to recognize him. Zariah, so what now? You gonna feed me lies like the rest of them? Malik, no, I'm gonna feed your silence until it moans. She inhaled deep. He extended his hand, not like a man asking to dance, like a man offering to lead her into something holy. She took at his palm, was warm, dry, and strong. He didn't squeeze, he held with pressure. That said, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm not afraid. He led her to a private booth in the back, where the shadows melted into candlelight. They sat facing each other. She watched the way he moved, slow, thoughtful, grounded. He didn't try to impress her, he didn't speak just to fill the silence. He waited, let the space between them heat like an oven. Zariah, say what you came here to say, Malik. You've had men take your body, but none of them ever stayed in it long enough to feel what it's really asking for. Zariah, and you think you know. Malik, I know you're not looking for sex, you're looking for recognition. You want to be known, to be studied, to be held with patience, then destroyed. Slowly, her thighs tensed under the table. Not from lust, from relief. He said what she hadn't dared say aloud. Zariah, and what if I give you everything and you turn out like the rest? Malik, then shame on me for wasting what they were never man enough to keep. She tilted her head. Zariah, you really believe you can make me come without touching me? He leaned in. Malik, baby, I already have that look in your eyes. That's not desire, that's surrender, trying not to get caught. She grinned. She hated how right he was. They sat like that for minutes, no rush, no pressure, and that's what made it unbearable. The restraint. He didn't touch her thigh, didn't lean in to kiss her. He didn't do a thing men usually do when they want something. He waited on in that waiting. She melted her hand, slid onto the table, just an inch from his sea, didn't grab ETH, turned his palm up, waiting for hers. She placed her hand there, and in that moment, in the space between flesh and trust, she felt something break, not her guard. Her pattern. Malik didn't flirt, he studied, he listened, he felt hand. That was the first time Zariah ever truly felt seen by a man without being touched. The music faded into the background, the jazz, the murmurs, the glasses clinking. All of it disappeared. All that remained was her heartbeat, and his stillness, and the silent agreement they made without speaking. This is going to be different. The rain had softened by the time they stepped out of the lounge, but the heat between them had not. Malik didn't touch her. Zariah didn't grab his arm. They walked side by side in silence, not because they had nothing to say, but because everything had already been spoken with energy. Their bodies buzzed with tension, but neither rushed. The night felt fragile, too sacred to break with small talk. Her heels tapped softly against the wet pavement. His long black coat flowed behind him, the city lights reflected in puddles like quiet blessings, watching them unfold. Her building, she turned the key, pushed the door open, and stepped inside first. She didn't say, "Make yourself comfortable." She didn't offer him a drink. She just walked slowly through the dim apartment, lit only by soft sconces and the glow of candles she hadn't blown out when she left. He followed, still not touching her, still watching her, like a man preparing to read a book. No one else ever got past the first page, or she stopped in the middle of the room, let the silence wrap around them again. Then she turned to him. "Zariah, this is where they all broke." He tilted his head. "Moloch, where?" She stepped back, toward him, placed her hand over her own heart. "Zariah, right here. They all said they could handle me. They all touched me, like they were trying to win something, and every single one of them thought the moment I screamed was the finish line." Her voice didn't shake, but her breath did. "Zariah, they never stayed through the stillness, never noticed when my moan turned into a question, never asked what it meant when I pulled their hands away too soon. I wasn't too much, I was always just unmatched." Malik stepped closer, his voice stayed low. "Malik, what happens if I don't run?" "Zariah, then you better be ready to drown." They stood there, her chest rising fast, his eyes steady, and then she reached behind her neck, untied the top of her dress, and let it fall slowly down her body, like permission. No seduction, no performance, just the sound of silk hitting the floor and skin standing proud. She stood there, completely bare, not posing, not hiding, just offered. Her nipples tightened in the cool air, her thighs pressed close, but her face held fire and fear in equal measure. Moloch didn't lunge, he didn't whisper sweet nothings. He stepped closer, reached for her face, and didn't touch her lips or her breast. He touched her cheek, his thumb brushed under her eye, then behind her ear, then down her jaw, like he was memorizing the shape of her softness. "Malik, I don't want you quiet, I want you raw." She exhaled so slowly it sounded like a prayer, and when he kissed her, it wasn't urgent, it was kiss without demand, just pressure, patience, and meaning. Zariah melted into it like a woman finally being poured into. She had been kissed 100 times before, but never like this. Never like the man kissing her was trying to unlearn every wrong touch she'd endured and replace it with worship. He kissed her until her knees trembled, then he lifted her one smooth motion and walked her to the bedroom. She didn't direct him. She didn't warn him, she just laid back, watching him undress, deliberate, like he wasn't taking off clothes, he was removing armor. When he finally came over her, he didn't settle between her thighs, not yet. He straddled her hips, bent down, and pressed his forehead to hers. "Show me what they missed." She reached for his hand and guided it, not to her breasts, not to her core, but to the place above her navel, where no man had ever started. He explored like a map reader, pressing gently, learning the places that made her arch, the ones that made her gasp, the ones that made her laugh unexpectedly. By the time he made it between her legs, she was already whispering his name like it was a secret she didn't know she'd kept. And when he finally entered her, slow, patient, deep, her entire body welcomed it. There was no rush. He didn't thrust like a man trying to finish. He moved like a man trying to listen. She trembled beneath him, not from friction, but from recognition. Her eyes rolled back, then they locked with his. Her fingers dug into his backhand for the first time in years. She didn't fake a single sound, because every sound he pulled from her was real. The moans, the whimpers, the gasps, the stillness, the surrender. She came with her mouth wide open, body twitching, and no shame. And he didn't stop, he didn't brag. He held her, rocked into her, whispered her name like it tasted good, then took her again, slower, deeper. By the third time, she had no words left, just breath and silence, the good kind, the kind that meant she had nothing left to hide. When he finally pulled her against his chest, both of them sweating, her body limp, she looked at him with tearful eyes, not sad, just full. "Zariah, you felt like truth." He kissed her forehead. "Malik, you feel like home." She hadn't even realized she was crying, but she didn't wipe the tears, because tonight, finally, she had been taken fully, completely, without apology. Light poured into the room through sheer curtains, soft and golden, the way sunlight only hits when something sacred just happened in the dark. Soraya stirred slowly for once. Her body didn't ache from tension, it ached from release. The good kind, the kind that settles deep in the hips and stretches through the chest, like something finally unknotted. Inside her skin was still warm, her thighs still tingling, and her heart still beating like it had been caught doing something forbidden. She blinked, took a deep breath, then turned her head. He was still there. Moloch lay beside her, one arm behind his head, the other resting lightly on the curve of her waist, eyes closed, beard soft, his bare chest rising and falling with slow, steady rhythm. He wasn't clinging, wasn't gone, either, just there like he'd been there for a long time, like her bed had always known. His Shapazaria stared at him. She didn't want to move, not because she was afraid of waking him, but because, for the first time in her life, she didn't want to break the feeling of stillness. No regrets, no second-guessing, no need to explain, overthink, or protect. Just peace, and peace, to a woman like her, was terrifying. She sat up slowly, letting the sheet drape across her bare body. She could still feel his hands on her, not just in the places he touched, but in the places he held. She swung her legs over the edge of the bed and walked quietly toward the mirror. What she saw staring back wasn't the same woman from the night before. Her hair was wild and free, her lips were swollen, her eyes carried something new in them, not hunger, not exhaustion, but softness. She had let someone in, really in, and he hadn't broken her. She ran a hand down her chest, across her belly, and stopped over her womb like she was checking for proof. She whispered, almost smiling, "Damn, he really touched all of me." A rustle came from the bed. "Moloch, is that you talking to me, or yourself?" She turned slowly, caught off guard. He was awake, smiling just a little, that deep morning voice sliding out like honey's aria. "Myself, Malik." "Good, because I want you to keep talking to her." He sat up, his bare chest now bathed in morning light. His eyes studied her like he did the night before, without rush, without assumption, with the kind of stillness that makes a woman feel safe without being softened. "Moloch, you've had too many mornings that felt like regret. Let this one feel like rest." She walked back to the bed, climbed in, lay facing him with her hand against his chest. "Araya, you stayed. Malik, you let me." She paused. "Ajaria, I don't usually." "Malik, I know." "Zaraya, you don't even know me." "Malik, I know how you breathe when your guard drops. Know your eyes go half closed when I trace the inside of your thigh. Know your moan isn't loud, but deep, like it's pulling something buried to the surface. I know your body asks to be studied, not rushed. I know you better than the ones who only saw what they wanted to claim." She bit her lip. No man had ever spoken about her like that. She was land, not territory, but home. He reached out, touched the curve of her face, and held her chin between his fingers. "Moloch, what are you thinking?" "Zaraya, I'm trying not to ruin this with doubt." "Malik, then don't look for a reason to run. Just stay, let your body teach your mind what peace feels like." She nodded, but her eyes still held hesitation. She wasn't used to this. Partly after the way he still looked at her, like she wasn't just someone he conquered. The way his energy didn't shift, the way her nakedness didn't feel exposed, but respected. She looked down. "Zaraya, I don't know how to be in something that doesn't make me feel like I have to prove I'm worthy of being loved." He didn't speak, just leaned in and pressed a kiss to her shoulder, then to the hollow of her collarbone, then her forehead. "Moloch, that's because you've only been wanted by men who saw you as heat. I see you as light, and for the first time in a long time." She cried, not from sadness, not even from fear. She cried because something finally landed, because someone finally held her without expecting her to perform, because someone finally looked at her after taking her and didn't look away. He pulled her closer, let her cry, let her shake, didn't hush her, didn't try to fix her. He just stayed when the tears stopped. She whispered against his neck, "Zaraya, what happens now?" "Malik, whatever you're ready for." "Zaraya, what if I want more of this? Like, night after night?" He smiled into her hair. "Malik, then I'll show up every time, and I'll take all of you and again until you stop questioning. If you deserve it." 2 days passed, not a week, not a month, just 2 days. That's all it took for Zaraya's fire to start flickering with doubt again. Moloch hadn't done anything wrong. In fact, That was the problem. He'd been consistent, texted good morning. Shared voice notes of poems he'd written in the past, no pressure, no assumptions, just presence, and that scared her more than any man who ever ghosted her, because peace, real peace, feels threatening when you've only known survival. Shay was sitting on the edge of her couch, scrolling through a playlist he had sent her, full of neo-soul and deep cuts that spoke in ways people couldn't, but instead of relaxing, she kept waiting for the switch to flip, for him to do what all the others eventually did, disappear, minimize her, touch her differently. Once they had her, so when his name popped up on her phone, Malik calling, she stared at it like it was a threat. Her chest tightened, her finger hovered. She didn't answer. He texted a few minutes later, "Malik, you good?" She didn't reply. He didn't text again. That should have made her feel respected. Instead, it made her spiral. By evening, her thoughts were loud. His pulling back that night was too much. You were too intense. You let him see all of you, and now he's leaving quietly. Just like the rest, she knew it wasn't logical. She didn't care, so she did what she always did. When the panic came, she built a wall and sent the kind of message that could break anything beautiful. "Zariah, you don't need to check in on me. I'm good. I think maybe that night was a lot. I appreciate your energy, but I think we moved too fast. I need space." She hit send. Her hands were shaking. Her chest was hottened. Then came the silence. 5 minutes. 10:15. No replies. Turned her phone over. Went to the kitchen. Poured herself a glass of red wine she didn't even want. She didn't drink. Itchy. Just stood there, staring at the wall, trying to convince herself that she hadn't just ruined something. Always been too much, right? Maybe she gave too much. Maybe he saw too deep. Maybe she was right to shut it down before he got the chance. Then a knock on the door. She froze. No one knocked on her door, unannounced, not even friends. She walked slowly toward it, barefoot, heart pounding. Looked through the peephole. It was him. Malik. No flowers, no gifts, just him. Black tee, gray sweats, slides, beard, sharp eyes, soft. She hesitated, then opened the door's area. "You shouldn't be here, Malik." "I know." She waited. He didn't explain, didn't apologize. He just stepped inside when she moved, gently closing the door behind him, then turned to face her. "Malik, you sent that text from fear, not truth." She didn't respond. He stepped closer. "Malik, I've seen this pattern. You feel something real. Then you run before it can run from you, so you end it first. You turn softness into strategy, intimacy into panic. You tell yourself you're protecting your heart, but really, you're just keeping it lonely." Her jaw tightened. "Azaria, don't psychoanalyze me, Malik. I'm not. I'm just refusing to let you disappear behind your defense mechanisms, Zariah. What if I was serious, Malik? Then you'd be answering me without shaking." Her breath hit. She hated how accurate he was. He did that. He read her so clearly. Hated that he hadn't gotten angry or sad or needy. Just honest. "Saria, I don't know how to be wanted without preparing for disappointment, Malik. Then let me teach you how to rest without guilt." He stepped closer, slower. "Malik, you didn't scare me. Zariah, you moved me, Zariah. But I gave you everything that night, everything, and now I feel." Malik exposed. She nodded. He placed his hand gently on her waist. "Malik, you weren't too much. You were real." She shook her head, voice trembling. "Zaria, what if I break down again? What if I freeze up midway? What if I cry in the middle of you loving me, and I don't know why? Malik, then I'll hold you, and I'll stay, and I'll keep learning." Her eyes welled up. He leaned down, touched his forehead to hers. "Malik, but I need you to stop running every time something feels soft." She inhaled deeply. Her walls were crumbling. "Zaria, you really want all of me? The moods, the tears, the questions, the silence, the need." He didn't blink. "Malik, night after night, I want it all again and again. Until you finally believe it." Her knees gave in a little. She grabbed the front of his shirt and whispered, "Zariah, then don't leave me tonight." He shook his head slowly. "Malik, I never left you. You left you. I'm just here to bring you back." He kissed her, not like the first night, not slow and reverent. This one was rougher, hungrier, full of the truth that survived fear. He lifted her into his arms like a woman reclaiming her own worth. And this time, when he laid her on the bed, she didn't think, she just felt and gave him everything again. It started quietly with routine, not the kind that comes from obligation, but the kind that soothes the body. Every night he came over, no texts that said with no calls, demanding answers. He just arrived every evening. After work, after life, after all the noise, and when he stepped through the door, he didn't just bring presents, he brought pieces. Aria started lighting candles before he arrived, not scented ones, real ones, thick white pillars in every corner of the room, like she was preparing a sacred space. Not just a bedroom. She played music, not loud, just enough for the walls to hum, sometimes Jill Scott, sometimes old Prince, sometimes instrumental loops. They never learned the names of Malik, always walked in without speaking. He kissed her forehead, her cheek, her collarbone, then asked the same question every time. Where should I begin tonight? Some nights, it was her shoulders, other nights her back. One night, she whispered, my feet, I carried too much today. So he sat on the floor like a man serving something holy, and kissed every inch of her heel. Her toes, her arches, they built rituals. He brought oils, lavender, sandalwood, clove them into her skin with slow strokes until her body melted into the sheets. Then he'd kiss the same trail he just touched, like sealing in everything he gave her. She stopped directing him. He didn't need it. Read her breath like a musician reads tempo, speeding up, slowing down, pressing deep when she opened, retreating when she tensed. He never moved to claim her, he moved to meet her hand. She became each night. She became softer, less guarded, less calculated, more vocal, more present, more hushed. She started whispering things she'd never said in bed. I love the way you take your time. No one's ever made me feel this slow before. It's not even the sex, it's what you're healing. Malik would smile but never interrupt, just keep moving, keep listening, keep pouring. He made love to her like a ceremony, not a sprint, not a performance. Some nights, they didn't even have sex. Just lay between her thighs, hold her there, warm, full, and still. And on the nights they did, she didn't scream anymore. She moaned like she was praying, hands above her head, eyes rolled back, lips open with no shame. She came like her body was remembering something it forgot was possible, and when it was over, he didn't move away, he stayed. They breathed together, sweat mixing, hearts sensing, no words, just belonging. One night, after the third round, she lay on her side, legs tangled with his, sheets twisted around their waist, her chest still rising and falling. Slow she turned to him. You know what's crazy, Malik? Zariah, I haven't faked anything since the night we met. He looked at her, quiet, proud. Malik, because you never had to, Zariah. You know what that means, Malik? That you were never the problem they were just never prepared for. The real you. She nodded, then asked, Zariah, what if one day I need more than this? He smiled. Malik, then I'll keep evolving just like you are. I'm not here for performance. I'm here for progression. That answer hit her so deep, her body shivered. She kissed him slow, without tongue, just lips pressed softly, and whispered into his mouth, Zariah, take me again. He did not because she begged, because he needed it. Not the orgasm, the intimacy, the knowing, the honesty, the reminder that this wasn't just physical anymore, it was restoration. Night after night, they built more than routine, they built trust. She started writing again, painting again, smiling longer in the mirror, wearing her natural hair to the office without shrinkage, fear, answering the phone with laughter instead of guarded breath. Didn't make her complete, he made her feel safe enough to complete herself, and in return, she opened doors in him too. One night, she caught him crying after a long talk about his late sister. She didn't hush him, she didn't turn it into a therapy session. She climbed into his lap, wrapped her arms around his neck, and said, you've given me my body back, now let me hold your grief. He held her tighter than he'd ever held anyone. The sex was still fire, still sweat, still tangled limbs and bitten lips, but now it was layered with something richer than lust, devotion. And every time he took her, again and again, it felt like something sacred was being built, something permanent, something that didn't need to be explained, only felt, only trusted, only given. Full. Azaria stood in front of the bathroom mirror, gold hoops in her ears, curls freshly coiled, lip gloss glistening like a quiet warning. She wasn't nervous, she was unsettled because letting a man into your body is one thing, letting him into your world is another tonight. Malik was meeting her people, not just friends or co-workers, but the ones who'd watched her become who she was, piece by piece. Pain by pain, the ones who'd heard her cry when the last man ghosted the ones who raised eyebrows when she wore red lipstick to church, the ones who whispered fast when she talked about pleasure like it was hers to own. They meant well, most of them, but their love was shaped by survival, and survival didn't always have room for softness or sex or being too much. He knocked gently on the door. We don't have to go say the word, and we stay right here, you, me, and some takeout. She turned, looked at him, button-down black slacks, sleeves rolled, beard lined, calm as Al-Wazaria. You're not scared, Malik, of your people? Nah, if they made you. I want to see the blueprint, she smiled. But her heart was still tight. They pulled up to her aunt's house just after sunset. The backyard was lit with string lights. Soft soul music playing over the speakers, folding chairs, card tables, spades being slapped, grills smoking. It was classic black family reunion energy. The kind that smelled like say butter, fried fish, generational trauma, and unconditional love all tangled together. They stepped into the yard. Hand in hand, first came the stares, then the whispers, then the test hurt. Aunt Lorna was first. Lorna, so this, the man who got you glowing like coconut oil at a beach party. Zariah, Auntie, this is Malik. Malik smiled, held out his hand. Malik, it's an honor. Ma'am. Lorna, oh, he got manners, let's hope he got backbone too. Then came her cousin Maya, arms crossed, eyebrow arched, protective to the bone. Maya, he vegan. Malik, only when I cook, otherwise I honor the meat and the woman who seasons it. The group hollered. Spades hit the table, cups tipped. Malik had passed the first round, but it wasn't over. The real test wasn't jokes or charm. It was Zariah's mother sitting quiet in a lawn chair, her gray braids pulled back, face unreadable, Bible still on her lap, even though she hadn't turned a page in 15 minutes. Tasharia approached Al-Nazaria. Mama, her mother. You brought him here, Zariah? Yes, her mother. And you're serious about this man? Zariah, I let him touch parts of me no man ever deserved to reach. Silence. Then her mother looked past her, nodded slightly at Malik. Her mother. If you hurt my daughter, I won't pray for your peace, I'll pray for your punishment. Malik walked up, stood beside Zariah, and looked her mother in the eyes. Malik, then I'll live in a way that keeps you praying for our growth instead. It wasn't a flex, it was a vow. Her mother nodded. Her mother, then eat. Sun Foods hot. Later that night, Zariah sat beside him at the card table, her hand on his thigh, under the table. Body leaned into his, like gravity had finally found its home. She whispered in his ear. Zariah, no man has ever seen this side of me, my people, my roots, Malik. Then tonight, I didn't just meet your family, I met the soil that grew you. She exhaled. Her guard, the final one, collapsed like it had been waiting back at her place. She didn't undress for him, he undressed her slowly, piece by piece, as if removing generations of silence from her skin. And when they made love that night, it wasn't just Zariah he took, it was every version of her that had been told she was too wild, too needy, too much. He held all of them, took all of them, loved all of them. It was supposed to be a simple afternoon farmer's market smoothie stand. His hand around her waist as she leaned over to smell fresh peaches, her head on his shoulder while they listened to a live jazz trio in the corner of the park. But peace, once built, always gets tested. She didn't see him at first, but she felt it, that shift in air. That energy you don't want to remember but can't forget, the shadow of a man you once convinced yourself was love. Chocolate-skinned, gym-fit, and empty where it mattered, the man who'd once said, "You want too much," the one who'd made her body feel like a burden, who treated her softness like a weapon, her moans like noise, her boundaries like insults, walked up, sunglasses pushed back, wearing the same fake confidence that used to fool her. And the moment he saw Zariah wrapped in Malik's arms, his smile twisted. Troy, Z. She stiffened slightly. Malik noticed his hand gripped her hip more firmly. Not possessive, protective. She turned. Troy, damn, you still fine as hell. Malik didn't flinch. Troy, So this, your new man, Zadia? Yes, Troy. He don't look like he can handle what you come with. Zariah opened her mouth, but Malik touched her wrist gently and then stepped forward. Malik, let me guess. You were the one who thought sex was a race, who left her body shaking. Not from pleasure, but disappointment, who told her she was too loud, too wet, too needy. Troy blinked. Malik, and now you see her thriving, and you think you can touch her again, like she forgot the silence you left her in. Troy, yo, who the hell you think you? Malik, I'm the man who listens when she moans, who slows down when her breath changes, who learns her rhythm every night like it's evolving poetry. I'm not here to impress you, Troy, I'm just here to remind you what you threw away. I treasure like legacy. Zariah stood frozen, tears pricking the corners of her eyes. Troy scoffed. Backed away. Troy, ain't y'all? Enjoy whatever this is. He walked off. Malik didn't look away. Didn't gloat. He just turned to Zariah, placed both hands on her cheeks, and kissed her forehead. Malik, he touched your body. I get to honor your soul. And in that moment, surrounded by strangers and saxophones, Zariah broke not down. Open, she grabbed Malik's face, pulled him in, kissed him deep and full, not for show, but for healing. That night, she didn't ask him to take her, she asked him to pray with her. They did on. The floor candles lit music. Losh sat between his legs, leaned back into his chest, and whispered a prayer for her younger self. Zariah, for every night I thought I was broken, for every time I faked a moan to survive a man's ego, for every piece of myself I shrank to make them comfortable, I release it, I reclaim me. Malik held her tighter. Malik, and for every man who touched your body but never deserved it, may your joy now drown out their memory. They didn't have sex that night, they held each other in gratitude, and somehow, it was the most intimate moment they'd ever shared. 2 weeks had passed since Troy, since the prayer, since Zariah finally buried her past and gave herself permission to live in Pista. Air had changed, not just around her, within her. She smiled, more, walked slower, wore sundresses without brass, let her curls live wild, without apology. She took long baths with music on and the lights off. She said yes without guilt, and no without explanation. She wasn't soft for anyone, she was soft because she was finally safe. Malik hadn't changed either. Not really. He still arrived every night with no demands, still kissed her forehead before her lips, still asked, where should I begin tonight? But something between them had evolved. They weren't discovering each other anymore, they were becoming one another. Their rituals were still there, the candles, the massages, the oils, but now it all led to something else. Stillness, not silence. Not absent stillness, the kind of stillness that only comes when a woman no longer needs to prove her worth. Not in her bed, not in her moan, not in her Mirand. Malik, he treated that stillness like treasure. One night, she looked at him across the room. He was folding their sheets, shirtless, sweat on his chest from the summer heat. There was nothing dramatic about it, just a man living in her space like he'd always belonged there. And, she whispered, almost afraid of her own honesty, I want to keep you. He paused, looked up, smiled. Malik, I already belong to you. She walked across the room, no lingerie, no makeup, no filter, just skin and heart. Saria, I thought no man could ever satisfy me, that my body would always crave more than men were capable of giving, that I'd always have to fake it, perform it, adjust it. Malik, and now, she touched his face. Azaria, now I crave only you. Night after night, again and again, not because I need you to complete me, but because I've never felt more whole than I do when I'm under you, around you, with you. He dropped the sheet, her in his arms, carried her to the bed, not out of desire, but out of devotion. He laid her down, not like a man claiming space, but like a man returning home. This time, there was no music, no background noise, no candles, just heartbeats, just breath, just Zariah and Malik, skin to skin, spirit to spirit, fire to fire. When he entered her, she didn't gasp, she sighed like her body had been waiting. Things she'd never said before. I trust you, I feel safe with you. Take me however you want, I'm yours. And when she came, again and again, it wasn't loud or violent, it was free. She cried, smiled, laughed through the last wave of it, then kissed him like he was air and water at once. Afterward, He pulled her onto his chest, ran his fingers down her spine, whispered, "You were never too much, you were always everything, you just needed someone with the courage to take it all." She kissed his heart, held his face, and said, "Then don't ever stop tick me again tomorrow night and the night after that and the one after that forever." And he whispered without pause, "Every night all of you again and again until your body forgets you." Wherever unloved,